informational night with what we have going forward.
You're muted, Bill.
Welcome, everybody. This is one of our first presentations to share out some information on how we're going to start the school year. We've been working with our leadership teams 7 through 12, more so the last 3 weeks, 4 weeks, but throughout the summer on getting school ready. So we are ready to go. Looks like Christy Van Ness said she can see the PowerPoint now. So looks like you're ready to go, Jeremy.
Yeah, it's not letting me. Well, let me try something one more time here. It's not letting me see the other screen, so I'm going to trust you in that process going forward with kind of leading us through the different things, and I'll see what I can do about getting things squared away. So go ahead, Mr. Walker, go ahead and get us started as I keep working with this real quick.
All right. There you go. We see your picture there now, Mr. Fox.
Okay.
Like I said earlier, my name is Bill Walker. I'm the principal at Connell High School. You're seeing Mr. Fox's photo probably right now. And Mr. Freetag is also with us. Mr. Freetag, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. Good to be here and see everybody.
So Mr. Freetag tonight will be helping us monitor the chat. And if you have any questions as we're moving along, maybe we're not answering it specifically to how you understand it, then go ahead and put a question in the chat. Mr. Freetag will kind of slow us down a little bit and we'll hopefully answer those for you. So go ahead, Mr. Fox, and see if you can show us your PowerPoint.
Yep. Just trying to get a few more people in here, so see if it goes the way it's supposed to go that we have.
I reposted the link for the survey in the chat again, so it should be where everybody that's on there now can see it.
All right, and can we see the PowerPoint?
Yep, I can see your PowerPoint.
All right. Are you seeing it as a PowerPoint, or are you seeing it as our preview?
No, I'm seeing it as a PowerPoint. It should be fine.
Okay, it's just not on my screen. So
preview. Yeah, it's a preview. Yep.
Okay.
So
let me. Here we go.
All right. Still the preview.
Yeah.
Yeah. We can make this work.
There you go.
Ready to go?
Is that good? Are you on your side?
Still seeing the preview.
All right.
All right. So just kind of
let's go.
Yep, an update for parents and for the students that are on here tonight. We know that we're getting ready to start school remotely, and one of the platforms that we're going to use to do our communication is this Google Meets platform. So for those of you that are familiar with Zoom or other platforms to communicate, this might be new to you. It's a little bit new to the high school, as we used a lot of Zoom last year to do our communication. So the Google Meets will be a platform that is all our communicating is done and all our live instruction is done. So our purpose tonight is we want to share.
Brandon, why don't you come watch this with me?
Make them watch. Make them watch.
Yeah, you bet.
Oh, shoot. Am I on?
No, you're all good. You're leading it now.
Yeah, you're leading it. You got it. Yeah. But the purpose is this is all brand new, and it's like the first time that I drove to Seattle when I was 18 years old. I didn't have a cell phone, forgot the road map. obviously didn't have GPS. And I got to Seattle. I watched the Seattle Mariners play in the Kingdome, but it was probably one of the most anxious and stressful drives that I had. Coming home was a lot funner, but I kind of like to think of this school year as that first trip to Seattle. A lot of stress, a lot of anxiousness, a lot of unknowns. And so we're here tonight to hopefully let you know about some of our goals and some of our vision for the school year. Okay. We've met with our staff. They're very aware of this. Again, our junior high and our high school leadership teams have worked on this the last 3 or 4 weeks. So we're prepared to share this out. And, obviously there's going to probably be some feedback. There's going to be some questions, and we're going to continue to make it the best we can with where we're going. Okay. Next slide, Jeremy. Mr. Fox.
Awesome. Yeah. As we go into this, again, just use your chat as a way to post questions. That way we can keep working through our slides, but then we have somebody monitoring that again, just to try to get your questions answered. But as we have started this process, our goals is really our foundation for this process, and that is really to see what it is that you see on the screen, and that is to promote consistency. And the consistency piece is one of the biggest components. We want the routine, we want the schedule. All of this is feedback that we learned from the spring. But with that, we know that we have to help support families and try to minimize those conflicts. And so we have a schedule now to minimize that process where students and families from elementary, junior high, and the high school can work together, because we know there was a lot of things that came out in the spring that prevented different situations. Another part of this distance learning plan is that we want to promote frequency. We want to still communicate with teachers. We want student to teacher conversation. We want teacher to parent as needed, but really how do we put teachers in front of our students is an ultimate goal within this. We've learned some new terms in this process with number 4. We have synchronous learning and asynchronous learning. And really, we're going to try to not utilize those terms because that's more of some of those educational terms, but we've tried to change things into synchronous is really our live instruction, and we're going to go through with what that is. Where we have the asynchronous instruction is just that support and that information that we are going to use as additional ways to support education this round with distance learning. And then tonight's purpose is also to help share the expectations, the schedules, the attendance, how homework is going to kind of work, and then also with grading. So.
Okay. So we looked at what happened in the spring with dropping on Mondays and having to work that way. We saw a lot of families competing for internet at the elementary, middle school, and I'm getting some feedback. I don't know if you can hear that. So if you are not on mute, maybe if you could hit your mute button when you're not talking, that might help us with that feedback. So we decided that we would have 6-hour day. Live instruction, office hours, and offline homework. So the schedule is in front of you. Connell High School will go from 8 to 10 with their live instruction. That's the synchronous learning. And then from 10 to 12, they will have their office hours. We'll share with you a little bit about what office hours is going to look like, but teachers are going to be available. They're going to be in their classrooms. They'll have their computers. They'll have access to the school telephones to make those conversations with families and with students. Okay. Mr. Fox, anything you want to add there?
Yeah, no, it's, our schedule that is what we have and what we've used from the beginning is really just to work with work with our students in all capacities and trying to be flexible. We know that there's not a right schedule, and nobody wants to go at 8 o'clock. Nobody wants to go all the way till, you know, maybe 3 o'clock in this process. But we really just tried to use just some common sense thinking around what this might look like, and how do we then support some of our students in the high school that may be working in the afternoon, again, to try to get as much interaction and part of that instruction as possible, so that we can work with kids that are are also doing tri-tech or college classes, supporting them in that capacity too. So lots of things just kind of went into that piece. As we go into just the expectation, one of the things that we're working with teachers in the upcoming week is just what are those goals and expectations each week, and really trying to be transparent around what we're going to be learning. Students are going to continue to work in the different platforms that we have. We have Google Classroom that we're going to continue to use in the secondary and in the elementary. We're going to continue with Google Meet as our video and our instructional model for teachers and for students. And then the Screencastify and different choice boards and things like that, that is all going to be part of teacher and student work as they go through. Students at the secondary have worked through those components in the spring, but we've also got chances this round to really improve that process. So trying to just help support students and teachers with having the tools necessary as we continue with the communication. We are going to continue as we go through this process. I think our communication was something that we learned in the spring, and we are going to be able to do that better through our structure that we have in place. And so we're excited about what that's going to look like. With what we have, regular communication, office hours are going to be structured to support students that need help. It's not going to be just kind of a come and go kind of thing like maybe it felt like in the spring. But we also have attendance and engagement and what that looks like. We're also going to be looking to monitor students' progress and provide feedback. That's the grading piece. So we're working with what that is. Again, we'll cover that here in a future slide. The thing with the next one, conducting assessments and providing grade in accordance to the policy. Tests are going to be given this year. Students are going to have grades just like they have. And again, we'll lay out that for you and also explain kind of where that has fallen in just that feedback from parents and just through the state and the guidance that we have. And the biggest thing that is, as you all know, and being out in society and the communities, is the whole the health department and OSPI. OSPI and the health department are the ones that are driving our conversations and where we meet in the health guidelines, allowing students and staff to be in buildings and the responsibilities that go within that as far as rules that we have to follow, safety protocols, and the different things that are happening as we are out in the community, knowing things like masks, social distancing, hygiene. All of those things are being brought into our buildings to keep students and staff safe and to meet those requirements by the health department and the state of Washington. So,
okay. So we wanted to make sure that 7 through 12 secondary is consistent. And so we've worked with the junior high at the high school. The junior high has worked with us to make sure that we're speaking the same language, making sure that we're using the same grading scales, and our schedules are very similar. So we want to continue to provide the learning opportunities for our students through online and supplement where needed. A lot of our high-risk students might need some packets where necessary and requested. Our departments, so say I'll use algebra for example. Algebra needs to determine what the most crucial learning targets or learning standards are for them to focus on throughout the year. So basically we want to be razor sharp with our teaching and our learning, and we want to make sure that we're hitting those main learning targets. At the high school, the college in the classroom classes, they have to follow the requirements of the university or college that are providing that college credit. So where one of our classes might not have as much homework on the off days, the college in the classroom classes, because it's a college class, needs to continue to do homework and possibly meet with their instructors daily. We decided that the core content classes, your math, your science, your English, your history, are going to be prioritized. We want to really have our core teachers focus on that instruction, making sure that our students are receiving the necessary information that they're going to need to go on and be successful. It doesn't mean that our PE classes or our art classes won't be available to our students. It's just going to be that they might not be providing as much homework on asynchronous or non-learning days. And then we want our teachers to engage with their students. If teachers see that students aren't being involved with their online learning, we want them to try and reach out and call. We want them to send emails. We want to be notified as principals. Our secretaries are going to be available and in the building to help make those calls, to reach out to those families, to see why that student didn't engage with learning. And as a parent, if your student is sick, just like a normal school day, we would hope that you would call in and let us know that your son or daughter wasn't feeling well and could not learn online for that day, and it'll be an excused absence. Okay. So at the high school,
Yep.
Next slide.
Yep.
So at the high school, we've broken it up into live learning in our 2-hour live learning section into 4 periods. So each class period will have live instruction, teacher instruction for about 25 minutes. They'll be teaching the lesson, they'll be recording the lesson, they'll be providing it live to their class. They'll take a 5-minute break just in between classes, just a traditional bell schedule. They'll open up their second period. They'll teach their second period class live for 25 minutes. Again, that information will be probably stored and have allowed students to go back and look at. Third period and fourth period. So that's what a Monday, 2-hour Monday slot looks like for live learning, periods 1 through 4. Again, from 10 to 12, teachers are going to be available to answer questions that students have about the lesson, do small group instruction, but be available for those students for those 4 periods. Then Tuesday, the students will have periods 5, 6, 7, and their stat class. And then Wednesday is going to be a day where teachers plan and prepare. We call it the professional learning community for our staff. We'll provide a social and emotional learning lesson for our students from 9:30 to 10 o'clock. And then there will be more learning off, not live, asynchronous learning outside of the computer. It's also an opportunity for students to maybe make up a test, do a formative assessment. It might be an opportunity for us to have a pep assembly or to break out and allow students to meet with different clubs and advisors. So that day is going to be a little bit flexible at the high school. Thursday is very similar to our Monday. And then again, Friday is very similar to our Tuesday. So there will be some work when they are not having their live instruction. Again, our focus is on the core, the math, the English, the science, and the history. And then we'll supplement it with our elective classes. Okay? Junior high, Jeremy?
Yeah,
Mr. Walker, Mr. Walker, before you move on, we had a question in there about, so TriTech students would be, whether they'll be periods 1 through 3 on this schedule. So.
Yep. And I see Marcy has replied in there. So traditionally in the past, the TriTech students have had a morning schedule. So we know that with virtual and online learning, TriTech is going to accommodate our students while we're online, and they will be able to do an online schedule with their TriTech teachers in the afternoon. That's my understanding so far. Going back to a question about the social and emotional learning, yes, we would like for all of our students to do the social and emotional learning. We've used 7 through 12 character strong, and again, we'll continue to have those character dares and that social and emotional learning piece provided to our teachers to give in their stat classes from 9:30 to 10. Okay, junior high.
Yeah, the junior high falls into the same kind of a process where we have a 2-hour block of live instruction. Again, Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. Those are your live instructional components that you have. Again, to simplify this process and working with the high school, but also just trying to help support families and what that is. We are running a 6-period day at the junior high, and so students at the junior high will go to first, second, and third. Again, everything's going to fall around that 25-minute time frame with about a 5-minute transition or a 5-minute break from class to class. The other piece that the junior high has a little bit different, just because we're running a 6-period versus a 7-period for what that is, and that is that all students at the junior high will then check in with their advisory teacher on a daily basis. This was just like on Wednesday, where they will take attendance in all of their classes that they go to. So the attendance will be taken out of those classes that they have live instruction for. Advisory for the junior high looks a little bit different, as these are opportunities for us to really help support students on a day-to-day basis and really find out how things are going. Maybe it's a small group kind of thing. Maybe we take five students and we work with 5 students, and we send others out, and their day moves on to office hours and all of that. But we're going to continue to work on those schedules with what that looks like. It goes into Tuesday, where Tuesday students will be into 4th, 5th, and 6th, and then they'll still return to their advisory for a quick check-in. Again, one of the things that we really want to make sure that we're doing is really supporting students with their understanding. If students aren't understanding how to do the work, that is an opportunity to ask those questions at the junior high. And we want to make sure that they're set up to be able to do the asynchronous or the office activities, office hour kind of activity. We want to make sure that they're ready to go, or if they need more help to really help support them during that time. Again, same as the high school. Mondays and Thursdays will be the same. Tuesdays and Fridays will be the same. This junior high will do a character strong lesson as an entire school. We'll do that through our advisory, so students are still required to attend on Wednesdays. And then it goes into that asynchronous learning, and that is our opportunity with that. Just like at the high school, a lot of things can happen during this. The student might be asked to do a test and take it and then turn it back in. Students might be asked to do some sort of activity that is a continuation of their learning that happened from a live instruction. So it's a pretty flexible component where it kind of works in interventions and helping to continue to support the learning. It could be some sort of assessment. It could be maybe some sort of entry task to get the next day rolling, so that that's not part of that day. So giving kids activities to keep them accountable during that time, and also continue to get support on the homework and the things that are happening, similar to what we would do on a daily basis when we run a stat time and kids get to transition from class based on grades. And so this is that opportunity for advisory teachers to really take some ownership and then support students and work through that. The junior high does have live instruction from 10 to 12, and that'll be 10 to 12 every day. And so we will be working through that schedule on a Monday through Friday schedule every week in a distance learning capacity.
Okay, so at the high school, Mr. Freitag is our truancy officer. He is the one that meets with families when students don't come to school, and so he knows this attendance piece pretty well, and we'll let him have an opportunity to share the light tonight. Mr. Freitag.
Okay, so before we get into the attendance piece, just wanted to share that I know there's been some questions in the chat about the first day of school. The first official day is August 31st. We'll get into more of what that week looks like a little bit later, though. So, but just to clarify, the first official day is August 31st. As far as attendance goes, students are expected to be in class. We're trying to provide some structure that wasn't there last year, and the state is supporting that. However, that being said, we also understand that there's many factors that are different being at home. So if you have a bad internet connection, if you have multiple kids, some families have multiple kids in either high school, junior high at the same time, and so you're trying to use a lot of bandwidth. So we're going to be understanding, and that's part of the reason why the teachers are recording the lessons so that they can be viewed later. The biggest thing is we just need the communication, so that if your kid's having a bad internet connection or there's not enough internet, just have them shoot a quick email to the teacher, letting them know that, hey, I tried to be there, my internet's not good, I will watch the lesson later. And the biggest thing then, it will show in their participation through the activities in class. We've gotten some more information from the state as far as attendance goes. We're still kind of wading through it. We'll know more come orientation when we have open house the first week. But the biggest thing, again, is just communication. There's allowances for kids, the same allowances for being sick as if we were in the building like normal. But the major thing, again, is just communication. So if your child's sick and they're not up to participate in the lessons at home, we just need that communication from you as a parent. Either through a phone call to the office, to Sheena or Jessica or Alyssa. Any of them in the office can take that down. Or in Jeremy's case, the junior high, the secretary's there. But again, just making sure that you communicate with us. A phone call works as well, and even possibly an email. So the biggest thing is just to communicate, and we're going to be understanding. And also we're going to try and provide some support in various ways that we'll talk about that later too. Any questions about attendance right now?
So one of the things that the state is working on, we use Skyward, and a lot of parents are familiar with the Skyward piece, but they're working on having Skyward be able to talk with the Google Classroom. And so when a student logs on, their attendance is taken. So that's what we're hearing. We might still have to rely on taking a photo of who's there and doing it the old-fashioned way, but definitely we want to know what students are participating, and those students that aren't participating, like I said, as principals, as secretaries, we're going to find out why. The state has said that we can have up to 5 students per classroom. So students who are not participating on a daily basis, maybe we need to send somebody from our transportation department out to pick up 4 or 5 students and bring them in and help them in the classroom. So that is something down the road that we're definitely looking at, labeling students who aren't interacting with us, labeling them as high-risk students. All right, what do we got next, Mr. Fox? Live instruction?
Yeah, live instruction. And so this becomes that synchronous learning. Again, we talked about it with just kind of already, but this just allows you just to see it, words on our screen here. But again, 25-minute classes is really what we're looking. We have 4 classes that we're looking for every day to do live instruction. Again, we'll take a short break as kids leave from one class to another class, and there's going to be some protocols of what that looks like and how we're going to allow kids to jump into different live instruction, and we'll be going over that with students and parents during an orientation, and we'll talk more about what that orientation is, about some of that and what that is just in a few minutes here. Again, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, those are all live instructions. We have 2 hour, and then we also have time where students will possibly get another lesson or an extension. It could be a video that's an extension from the lesson. It could be an assignment during that office hours and online learning opportunity. But then Wednesday also provides that opportunity for us to use an advisory lesson, but also do those check-ins with students around interventions and just where students need. Again, mandatory attendance during live instruction. Those 2 hours that you have live instructions, again, 4 class periods is all you're going to per day that you need to participate in a live instruction, and then you'll get your attendance for the day. And then we really want to do a lot of our information as far as teaching during this live instruction. We don't want to have to go back and do other things, but it's to be able to clarify, answer questions. All of that happens during some of your instruction, but it's really talking about the whole standards and the things that and objectives for what that particular lesson would be. That's your live instruction, where you kind of think of it as a group. You're working through that information, where we're going to send students off to do things maybe as a clarification or an extension of what they learned on their own to see if they are understanding how things are happening in an online, and that'll be during the office hours or online instruction. And so, again, we're going to try to use live instruction with everybody community-wise as much as possible, but you will see the word synchronous learning around there. It means the same thing, and that's I know it's a new word, but just that's what they've used with us. So we're just trying to stay transparent with the state.
So then office hours. So after your live instruction is when you have office hours. Teachers are in their room. They're available to continue to connect with kids. Some of our paras that help our special education students, our resource room students, will have one-on-one classes or small group instruction for them. Teachers are available to answer those questions and help students figure out the lesson. Just like in a classroom, when a student raises their hand, the teacher will be there it'll just take a little bit more effort with an email from a student or a phone call from a student saying, can you walk me through this and help me a little bit on that?
Awesome. Mr. Freitag, you want to catch us up on any questions or anything in the chat there?
Yes. So we had a question about orientations, the week orientation, what that looks like.
Yeah, we're going to get to that in just a little bit. And then I see Ms. Schwinneman asked about emails. Yeah, they'll just need to probably just call and say they're having a hard time with their internet connection at that time. And hopefully, everybody will have a little bit of grace during this and we can figure that out. I know that the school district is working on trying to, with different internet companies, to beef up the internet in certain areas and providing hotspots in certain areas. And so we'll definitely continue to work on that.
A phone call could work just fine too if you don't have enough internet.
Okay.
Then also they asked about when are we getting our schedules. I can tell you at the high school, we've been trying to finish out our staffing and figuring out what classes we can and can't offer through the current format. So the counselors are working right now, so we should have schedules out next week. Normally we'd have them ready a little earlier, but it's just a little different situation. So we're finalizing things and getting things ready, and students should be able to access schedule sometime next week.
Yep. So we have a lot of questions there, and I know Mr. Freeman is asking about his kiddo, and yes, Mr. Freeman, we'll trust your kid. Okay, so you know, until that trust has been lost, we'll trust him. And then internet, I think we talked about that. We're working on getting help with that. And then Ms. Rivera, we'll get to the back to school orientation where kids will get their Chromebooks. And as far as the internet, that's something that you can talk to your school about, and where to find that internet hotspot, or possibly pick up a MiFi from the district. So, yep, good questions. Okay.
Yep.
Go ahead. I was just saying, Mr. Jacobs is working on. We had those the higher power hotspots that could had up to 100 accesses within a certain distance. I think we had 3 or 4 of those out there in the community. He's currently reassessing where would be the best locations for those. So as soon as we have that information ready, we'll get that out so that everybody knows where those hotspots are located. You also have the ability to get to any of the schools and tap into the Wi-Fi. And then, as Mr. Walker alluded to, there's a number of MiFis that if you're in if you live out in the country away from any of those locations, and you need a personal one where you can actually get a signal at your house, you just don't have the access, then you can contact the school and express a need for that, and we can look into trying to get you one of those.
Perfect. All right. And the last piece that we have to a student's day, again, students are going for really 6 hours. We're working in a 6-hour, 2-hour time blocks. The last 2 hours of a student's day is really meant for homework. This time also gives is allowed for or set up for our teachers to get their prep time. This is where teachers will still be able to be accessed. They can be accessed through a phone call and being able to do that. But really, our teachers are going to be working on making their videos and doing that during that while kids have chances to really do homework and be able to work on any activity. But if they still needed help, it's obviously just takes a phone call or an email to be able to just connect to a teacher if they still get to something and they need it, because our teachers are going to be in building going forward. And so that allows them to be able to reach out and have those conversations with our students to support them. So.
Okay. So as most of you parents, you've probably had a few Zoom meetings or had to do some conferences over the internet. And one of the things that I learned to do is how to sleep with my eyes open. So I just thought I would share that with you, that we're going to try and let our teachers be aware of those students who are there but sleeping with their eyes open, and making sure that they're possibly asking them the right questions to keep them engaged. All
right, grades. We go from sleeping with our eyes open to the conversation around grades, and this is the piece for us that gets us back to kind of a traditional school. We're gonna go back to as if we were in-person instruction, regular school. Our grading system is going to be the same as what it would have been as if we were in school. And so this is the district's policy that we're continuing to use again during this time, even though we're in distance learning. This is way different than what we learned about in the spring last year. Students are needing to be accountable. Tests will be given, and we need them to be able to follow that engagement and be part of those instructional opportunities, those 25 minutes. We're saying 25 minutes of live instruction while still working in an individual piece with homework and during the online activity portion. So we're going to continue that as we go. That'll be a standard across the 7-12 this next year. Yeah, I'm just finishing up a comment in the chat. I can go. Yep, no, that's fine. So we know that there are still going to be tons of questions, and we know that parent
contact, that student contact, all three sitting down together with a teacher to go over these expectations is important. So in order for us to go faster and be more successful, we got to start a little bit slower. So that first week of school is going to be for us to contact families, to meet with families, to talk to families, to see what their needs are, and do just have that personal connection. So we know that some families won't feel comfortable coming into the school, wearing a mask, using the proper hygiene, social distancing, taking their temperature. So our teachers, our stat teachers, our advisory teachers will try to accommodate those families with a live Google Meets to talk a little bit more about those things. For those families that don't come in to pick up the textbooks, to pay their fines or pay their Chromebook fees or do some paperwork that they might be able to do in person, then we'll work with them on an appointment basis or do some type of curbside delivery in front of the school for them to get their Chromebook in the 7th grade, to get their biology book at the high school, or their algebra book, or the materials that they need. So we're willing to work with the families. We're going to spend that first week. It's our family week, and we've decided that we are going to spend 3 evenings at 7 through 12 working with our families, accommodating our families to get into the schools, because we know a lot of our families are working. And so we're giving up that time in the mornings. We're going to come in the afternoons and the evenings in 45-minute blocks to meet with families. It might not take 45 minutes, but we want you to come in and schedule an appointment with your stat teacher to sit down with your student. And so all 3 of you know what our expectations are. Last year, I think we had some parents say, oh, my son or my daughter says that there's no homework. Well, there was still some homework going on. So that's not necessarily always true. So sitting down during that time, getting all your answers, your questions answered is when that can be done. The last 2 or 3 days, I've spent half my day on the phone with parents. I've been meeting with parents. I've been trying to text with parents. I've been emailing with parents to help communicate. So finally, I asked Mr. Fox if we could do a presentation. We have 114 people here. We have 650 students at the high school and probably around 300 at the junior high. So we know that there is information that we have to get out. We're going to provide that information again next week. The first week of school, there won't be any instruction. It'll be all opportunities for you to connect with the teachers and with the stat kids to get those books, to get those Chromebooks, to get all that paperwork that you need. So we're going to kind of go slow to go fast. Hope that helps.
Yeah, and again, your teachers will be scheduling this just like in a conference situation. Teachers are going to be starting to have those conversations and be calling. You'll start to get those calls next week. And again, we want to see as many parents and students as possible. And these are just some of the things that we're trying to communicate. Just again, we want to be able to try to do as much face-to-face by helping people understand what's kind of happening. We want to be able to walk through some of our procedures, our safety procedures that we're going to be implementing within our buildings and how we're going to go about that. We want to be able to talk about just that schedule and what questions still do people have around that so that we have an understanding. We're going to be covering 2 different schedules during that time. We are starting the year off in a distance learning, but at some point we anticipate us going to a hybrid model where we will have half of our students in the schools on different days. And so we want to be able to explain that to parents so that we're clear on what that is as we look to transition from distance learning to hybrid eventually. But again, we'll start distance learning. We want to just make sure that everybody understands our attendance and our grading policies. How do you get participation? How do you participate in class? How do you pick up your textbooks? We have families and students, especially at the junior high with 7th grade, and how do you even get into Google Classroom? And so we're going to be working to set that stuff up for our students so that they can go to their instruction on the first day, which will be the day after Labor Day, and be able to start in their instruction, be ready to go, and continue that process throughout the year and the quarter. Again, a couple different things are going to continue to change throughout the year, but we have things that, like email addresses. We're going to need to have updated email addresses and phone numbers to be able to contact you, because we are in a world of technology now. It doesn't mean that everybody has it, but we need to make sure that we communicate as much as we can. There's still some final forms things that we're going to be going over with the different policies, questionnaires and insurance, and then other information that we're going to be putting together. Our ultimate goal with this orientation night is, one, we want to meet you. We want to still talk to you and make sure that you understand our different policies that we have going forward. But we also want to make sure that we give you something as you leave. We want to make sure that parents have all their students access. And here's the different things. These are their logins. This is how you get into Skyward. This is how you get into Google Classroom. We're going to put a folder together that gives you those access points and where to go if you still have questions to then support people. So we're going to let you leave so that you can go home and be able to do all of that on a weekly, daily basis, and be able to be successful in the classroom.
We got some questions we probably should get addressed so we don't get too far behind on them.
Yes, go ahead.
So there was one question about if the internet's bad, that to take the video off and it doesn't take as much bandwidth and you can still participate through voice. And so the question was that students don't have to have their video on. Ideally, if we can, obviously we want them to, but again, we're going to try and be extremely understanding in working with kids and trying to get things done. And ultimately, when they get their work done, it'll tell the teacher whether they're there and participating or not, whether they get to talk to them actually during that 25 minutes or not. So if you have to turn off your video to be able to listen to the lesson live and participate, then yes, please do. I don't know if you answered this, Mr. Fox, and as I was copy and pasting questions, but one family mentioned that they don't have a thermometer. You don't have to take the temperature at home. That's just an option that you guys can do. We're trying to open that avenue because that way, if some people do it at home, some people do it at school, we're not bogged down, and we're better able to maintain social distancing when we are at school. But we will have thermometers here at school to be able to take temperature. They asked during orientation, will they be issued their books at that time? Again, Ms. Fox, you might have covered that. I didn't hear that, but yes, we'll take care of that then. Will homework be turned in on a weekly basis, or will that depend on the teacher? As far as right now, it will depend on the teacher to an extent, but I know when we've talked with our leadership, some of the things they've gotten from last spring was that they need to break things down in smaller amounts for the kids in a distance situation. So I think a lot of them are planning on smaller assignments more frequently, so they maybe do more often, but they're not going to give big, huge assignments that are due in short periods of time. And then the last one I have to get us caught up is, does the WIA sports schedule apply to OJH as well? I'll let you ask that, Mr. Fox, because I don't know.
Yeah, it will continue to follow that same piece as the high school. So. I know we have a few other questions in there.
Yes.
Yeah, with our dress code, with our live instruction, dress code is going to follow your school rules. With what that is, we need to make sure that students are appropriate. Whatever you would do in a regular school setting would be what we're asking students to do in a live instructional component, or if they are in a Google Meet with a small group. All of that dress code would be the same as what it would have typically been in building capacity.
And I'll just chime in. I see a good question about senior projects. And yes, at this time, students will be doing senior projects. That that was a decision late in April last year by the school board to not allow students to have to complete a senior project. So our stance is yes, at this time, senior projects will be a graduation requirement, but I'm not sure what that will look like as we progress throughout the school year. Okay.
All right. Timeframes.
Yeah.
Go.
Timeframes. This is a great question because we want to get back to in-person instruction. We want students in the building. We went to college. We grew up writing about this as fourth grade students about what we want to be when we grow up. We want to be teachers. We want to be educators, and it just makes so much sense to have kids in the classroom. But we know that it's going to take some time to make that transition from the current remote learning piece to the in-person piece. We know that it's going to mentally take some time. It's going to physically take some time to prepare for that. We've got to work with transportation. We've got to make sure we notify families. We've got to have our safety protocols spick and span in place. So the general thinking is 3 to 5 days to make that transition once the Benton Franklin Health District tells us that our cases are under 75 for 14 days, that we can do that, 3 to 5 days. But on the other hand, if we have to transition back from the in-person instruction, the hybrid instruction, to a 2.0, what we're going to start the school year with, I think we can do that immediately. And if we have to kind of go like on a pendulum on a clock, I think that we're going to get pretty good at making those transitions. One of my suggestions to Mr. Jacobs and to other administrators is there ever going to be anything considered a snow day anymore? Or are we just going to have a robocall saying the roads are bad today, there won't be any buses, students, you're going to be doing your remote learning today? So with this remote learning, that gives us maybe some flexibility and leeway to continue to make connections with kids and families that we normally wouldn't do. We might not have a snowmageddon of 14 missed school days. We wouldn't miss out on any learning. Learning would just continue in the remote model. Something to definitely think about. Okay, the next one, I put this in last week because this is kind of just how I felt. I was like, there's a lot going on, and I'm not sure if I got it all right, and I'm just thinking and thinking and thinking. The nice thing about it in this district is that we meet as administrators once a week to discuss it, to discuss how we're going to open up junior high and the high school 7 through 12. We're all on board together, and so there's not a lot of going on. I know from out there in the community, the parents are going, wow, this is a lot. So we wanted to get this information out to you. We wanted to allow it to sink in, give it some time. If there are more questions, think about it. Feel free to call. Let us know. Okay. One of the great opportunities that our school district has done is put this resource center together. Jeremy, why don't you talk a little bit more about where we want this our folks to go?
Yeah, and it's really we want to really use this resource center for all families to really start using the North Franklin School District website to access their information. So just as you would have come through, did that go to the website?
No, it didn't. It wasn't live. Nope.
Okay. Just as you would, we want to push families to understanding that you go right to the district webpage, and in that we've done this resource center where it just kind of explains what's going on. It gives parents some information around different components, and then there's different links that you can use. Maybe it's to just get to a Facebook page. Maybe it's to get to the website where more information is posted that are particular to your school. And so just along with different resources, so we're trying to really funnel all of our information so you don't have to go find it all over the place, but it's in one location where you know, if I go to the district website, I should be able to get information. And if I can't find it, that's okay. That's when a call can happen and we can try to help support you in your understanding. But trying to use that resource center through the distance learning piece, or any resource for the district through the website.
Yeah, while parents are writing down some of this information, work with your counselors on that PE credit. Okay, those are some good questions. We are hoping, our goal is to not do online learning all year. Our goal is, as soon as the COVID cases are down for a 14-day period, that we go back to live instruction with that hybrid model, with half our students at the 7 through 12, half our students on an A/B schedule. And we'll talk more about that, but we just wanted to get out our opening of school tonight and what that virtual piece looked like. The sports piece is being postponed. There's going to be shorter seasons. Example, football is going to be later in the spring. So yeah, it's just really an interesting time for all of us. I've been in education now. This is my 30th year, but it's my first year. It's my first trip to Seattle driving. You as parents, it's your first year doing this. Students, it's their first year. Our teachers, it's their first year. And we all know that anytime that we do something for the first time, we're going to learn a lot about it, and we're going to continue to improve and get better. So, here's some upcoming information nights. Get the word out to your friends. Have them call the schools, talk. If you want to come in, stay 6 feet apart. I think my office is fairly big enough that we can have that conversation. I won't talk about wrestling or anything like that, Mr. Freeman, but we might talk about the Seahawks. How's that sound? Okay.
And just as we wrap up here tonight, we'll continue to post this information. We'll post the PowerPoint on the district website again for people to access. We also will provide the recording from tonight, and just going forward, just so people have the information again, just with the different questions and kind of our purpose and how do we support the start of the 2020-2021 school year is our best thinking at this time through multiple avenues, as we spent all summer trying to prepare for that. And that really just leads us to this last piece before we answer a few more questions, and that is this is Mr. Walker and how he feels all the time now because of his experience with surgery on his back this summer. And so we just have to remember that we are all going to be flexible. We're all going to continue to support, but by all means, whether it is the junior high, whether it is the high school, whether it is the elementaries, we want nothing more than for your son or daughter to have a great year with every avenue that we can probably provide to make sure that they get every need to continue to help them be successful and be prepared for the next grade.
Yep.
We ready to go through the questions we have right now?
Yeah, go ahead, James, give it a shot.
Okay, so first one that we haven't got to is our credit requirements going to change. At this point, they have not. We still require 26 credits to graduate from Connell High School. That may change. I have no inclination to know that it will, but we're just going to proceed as if we're going to meet 26, and we're going to do everything we can to get those kids to that level, just like we always do.
Yeah, and just a couple of Connell Eagle brags. With all of the uncertainty last year and how that spring went, Connell High School's graduation rate was still in the high 90s. And so we made it work. Our teachers made it work. Our counselors did an outstanding job. Graduation specialists, and all those students graduated with 26 credits.
Next one is along the lines of, if we don't have as many staff training days, can we get out earlier in the year? At this point, we just have a regular calendar, just planning to finish the year as it is listed on the calendar. It's available on the district website, the 2021 school calendar. There's a question is if there's a need for substitutes and how they be utilized. Right now, as long as we're in distance learning, we're not going to need substitutes as we can see right now, but we get into the hybrid plan, get kids back in the building, then we would go back to needing substitutes when teachers are sick or ill or have appointments and whatnot.
Yeah. And I'll talk a little bit about that lunch delivery. It's my understanding that the lunch delivery is going to be very similar to what we did in the spring. I know that they're still working out some pieces with the transportation department to better utilize their services to getting out to those students that are our most needy. So they're still working on that. Look for that information on the website.
And again, we would still will we be ready to cover that during that orientation too? So then that's a couple weeks away.
Yeah.
Last question I have, transfer. I know there's some more in the chat right now, but the last one I have from before we started here was, will parent night be in person or Google Meets? Either option is available. We'd like you free to get in here and get and see your stat teacher face to face. But if that doesn't work for you for whatever reason, then the Google Meets is an option. So you just need, when your child's stat teacher calls to schedule an appointment, then you just need to let them know, which one you would prefer.
Yep, might be an email, might get their Google Classroom set up for their stat. So look at that. Jennifer Thompson asked a question about better security on the Chromebooks. And Mr. Fox, you spent a lot of time this summer looking at this and researching it and trying to get some things put in place 7 through 12. Why don't you talk about that?
Yeah. One of the things that we've purchased GoGuardian Teacher for all of our teachers this year. And so all of our teachers will be, when students are on their Chromebook, they will be able to monitor the learning of what's going on with their students. There's new features that continue to come out. I need to explore some of the ones that work with parents. On top of that, I just got an email the other day with the ever-changing world that we're living in. How do parents also help monitor that? But from a school's perspective, we're going to continue to monitor the same way, but teachers will be monitoring while in live instruction, while in asynchronous or online activities. So teachers will have more access to what kids are doing on their Chromebooks. And then we will also be continue to monitor that on our part. And we'll be teaching teachers around how GoGuardian works going into our professional development days next week.
Yep. Another good question about any updates. What do we know about updates? What are our tech people saying about the updates?
As far as on their computers?
Yeah, they're just pushing them out, aren't they?
Yeah, our Chromebooks. So when students come to their orientation, and if they already have a Chromebook, we would like them to bring that Chromebook with them so that when we can just make sure that everything is working, and we can do our part to try to make sure that that students have a Chromebook that is going to work the way that they think it's supposed to work. And so we will look at what that is. It'll also allow students to make sure that they get onto our Wi-Fi system to make sure that updates happen. During that orientation, it will also allow for parents to pay for that fee. We still have the fee, the Chromebook fee, that just like we did last year, to help us with those things that happen, keys that get popped off, screens that get broken, and different things. So you're still going to have your Chromebook fee going into this year to help just with that and that accountability with students. But we want them to come to school to work on that update just to make sure that everything's up and running. Gives us an opportunity to have some conversations with our technology people and pass information along.
Yep. in any of our schools in the district, Mesa, Basin City Elementary, the junior high, the Connell Elementary, or the high school, you can very easily pick up Wi-Fi. You should be able to pick up Wi-Fi within 100 feet of the school. Maybe in some cases you might have to get a little closer, but you should be able to connect with that. Okay.
One thing to clarify, the I think it was the last slide or next to last slide where it talked about parent nights next week. Those would be Google Meet meetings. They're not actual nights at the school. We'll get those links out for everyone to be able to access, but just want to make sure everybody was clear that those are Google Meets, not show up at the school for a meeting in one place.
Right. Yeah. The stat teacher or advisory teacher will be contacting you, email and phone calls to set that up, and see if you want to come in person, wearing your face mask, practicing your social distancing. We'll take your temperature, and you'll meet with your stat teacher, and we'll provide a lot of information for you. So it'll be really another reassurance and informational opportunity for you to get that off to a great start. Okay.
So some other questions. When we get our school supplies list, I don't believe we have a school supply list at the high school. I don't know about the junior high, Mr. Fox.
Yeah, the junior high has it posted on the OJH website. It's posted there. It's the same. And yes, our anticipation is that we will come back to in-person live or in-person instruction during the hybrid model. So school supplies would still be something that you should be looking at purchasing and being prepared, whether you're in a distance learning or we're coming back to school. So yeah, check that out. It's on the OJH website within the North Franklin School District.
Then will OJH have a math team?
Right now, we are going to work through the distance learning and then start exploring math team as we get further. But at this point, math team is not going to start the year out. We might be able to add it later, but to at least get us going in our year, it won't be starting.
Are packets of homework going to be sent to us, or are we going to need to pick them up?
Yeah, packets, if students are requesting packets, that would be working with the teacher to do that. Since we are in building, going to be in building, it's going to be more of opportunities to pick those up from the school. But if we needed to communicate, we would obviously work and accommodate the different things to help support you with the things that you need in order to be doing your work and being accountable and engaged in the learning.
Yeah, at the high school last year, we didn't have too many students requesting packets, but another school district close by us worked with the students who didn't have strong internet to provide some materials, and they used the lunch program to distribute those. So that's just an option, and again, working with that teacher to see what option is going to be best for you.
And then another one was for high school. How will we use our own Chromebooks? You are allowed to use your own one. We'll provide one if you want, even if you have your own. But if you have your own, you want to use that. We're going to have a purple folder for orientation that your stat teacher will give to you, and one of the forms in there will be your annual Chromebook form, like Mr. Fox alluded to earlier. And on there, you can choose whether you want to have insurance if you have a school one. But you can also put the option on there, check that you're going to use your own Chromebook. We're not going to provide insurance for your own Chromebook. We're only going to cover your school ones. But if you want to use your own, that's fine. You just need to mark that on the form, and that way we have record to know that you're choosing to use your own Chromebook. Then if you have multiple kids in high school, will they do one meeting with stat teacher? A good question. Yes, you only have to do one. We've talked about only having to do one meeting with stat teacher. If you wanted to meet with all your kids' stat teachers, yes, feel free to do it. But we're going to try and delineate so that parents don't have to sit through, because it will be pretty similar all the way through. So very good question there.
Next question there, it popped up on my screen, Mr. Freetag, is this being recorded? Mr. Fox, I hope you hit the record button, right?
Absolutely.
Otherwise, we have to start all over again.
Yeah, we've taken a lot of time of people's time tonight, but it's all valuable time to make sure that we have that. Again, we also have other opportunities next week that we're going to do just for the high school, just for the junior high, and then also a Spanish session for our families just to continue. You're going to hear it tonight, just people process things, and then they still have, new questions and how does it work are going to come up, and we want to give you that opportunity to ask those questions so that we can support your understanding through this time.
Yep, for sure.
And one other piece that I wanted to add was, Mr. Walker alluded to that we're all learning going through this. As we get into the beginning of school, if there's issues, troubles, frustrations, suggestions you guys have, please communicate with us, whether it's the classroom teacher or us in the office. Please let us know, because we either can answer your question or it'll be something that will be brought to our attention that we need to address, and then we can work on it to make things better.
Perfect.
There's a question of packets. If a student needs packets, I think Mr. Walker mentioned it, that we'll get packets out if we need to.
Yep, just work with your teacher on that, and see what we can do to help them out.
All right. More questions will continue. Lots of information. We'll post this on the website, the PowerPoint, the different things. But we thank you for giving up your time tonight. It was an hour. We kept it around about an hour of information, but we have about 15 minutes of what we have for questions. And so an hour and 15 minutes of information. Thank you for your time. And don't hesitate to reach out to any of us to ask your questions. We're gaining new information every day as we get ready for the school year. So don't hesitate as you go about. But we thank you from the junior high, and also I know from the high school too. So
you bet. And we thank you for the high school. Your student is the most important thing for us. And so getting them graduated to be successful in college, the military, or their career choice is our number one goal. And we want to make sure that they are prepared to go out and be successful. So thank you guys very, very much.
All right. Have a good evening.
Yep. Have a good evening. And for those of you that are new with the Google Meet, you just go down there to the bottom and kind of hit that red phone, and you should be able to hang up right there. So thank you guys.
Log out.
All right. I'm going to shut her all down.
Just a second, Jeremy.
Okay. Oh yeah. You got to grab your stuff. I have attendance.
Okay.